Today I'm just going to do a quick video on getting the Intel Arc A750 set up with Ubuntu 2022.04, and following that I'm just going to do some AI machine learning related testing. So I'm using this little resto mod Dell that I had in my previous build video, and I'm just installing it off of a live boot flash drive, which is always pretty easy and cool. So now it's installing, and once this is done, I will go ahead and try to set up the Arc A750 GPU. Now, for those of you who watched my video on building this thing, I hit up Micro Center and just picked up a cheap little blue LED fan and also the IDE to SATA connector, so that hopefully I can get the CD drive to actually read disks and not just have power. So I'll be installing these at some point. The install is completed, so now it's time to restart. Now that I have my blank install of Ubuntu set up, I'm going to go ahead and install and set up the IPEX-LLM, which you can see here initially on GitHub, and it's a PyTorch library for running LLM on Intel CPU and GPU items. Now, being that this is the Arc A750, my interest was definitely piqued when I saw that this will allow you to run the text generation WebUI. So I wanted to go ahead and just make a video documenting my process of getting this installed and testing it on this resto mod build that I had. So the first thing I'm going to do is go into the installation guide here, and there are some prerequisites here. However, it appears that some of these prerequisites actually will be completed by going ahead and following the quick start guide first. So I'm going to do that and then return to here, because you need to set up some environment variables and things like that in the conda environment that you create when following these instructions. So I'm going to go ahead and do this, and the first thing to do is install the GPU driver. Now, I am on Ubuntu 22.04.3, I believe. And if I want to just check my kernel version real quick, which this is 6.5, I can just type uname-r, and it shows me my kernel version is 6.5 right here. So seeing that I need 6.5, I'm just going to scroll down to here and follow the instructions for 6.5. And so I don't have to keep switching back and forth. I'll just arrange everything. Now, this machine I've done nothing to so far, no setup or anything like that. The only thing I've done is set up OBS to record the screen. So the first step is completed. Now I need to install the drivers. And once I do this, it's going to reboot, so my recording will stop and I will restart a new one. So now that the machine has rebooted after that initial step, I'm going to go back into my browser, and I think it will restore the tabs, hopefully. Nope. Okay, kind of. So I've done this, so that's where we left off right here, is at this reboot. Now the next thing I'm going to do is here, while I configure these permissions. And this is just adding my user to the render group to have access to, I suppose, GPU related items and things of the sort. And following this, I am going to run this command, which is just related to like checking hardware information and stuff like that on the system, so it can show me like the graphics device and things like this. So this is what we want to see. Driver status is active. Now, I have to say though, documentation wise, I do kind of wish that they would put something in here like, okay, this is what your expected output should look like. Like if it says blank is active, then it's correctly installed. But I understand that these documents are likely aimed at more tech savvy folks. So the next thing I'm going to do is install oneAPI, which I suppose you could kind of think of in some parallel to like NVIDIA's CUDA and things of that sort, but this also encompasses more than just Intel GPUs. It also encompasses CPUs and some other like FPGAs and stuff like that. Now this download I think is going to take a little while. Alright, now the install oneAPI command has been finished. So our next step is going to be to set up a Python environment. And as this is a new install on this machine, I do not have Miniconda installed. So I'm just simply going to follow the instructions here. Okay, enter. And it makes you like scroll through this. You can just type Q and that will skip to the end where you can type accept. Yes. Alright, and it's closed, reopen your current shell. I'm just going to do this again. Good. Okay, and then our next step is going to be to create a new Conda environment named LLM using Python 3.11. 3.11. Alright, and we want to activate it now. Now that that's done, we scroll on down to the install IPEX-LLM and we do our location specific command, which for me is US. Copy, paste. Alright, that is now finished, so we're going to scroll down into verify installation and we're just going to copy paste this in. And it shows us here that these packages are latest, environment initialized. Alright, so to exit this, we can just type exit, or I think you can do Control D or something. If you're in Linux, there's also a Windows command for that. So the following thing we're going to do is runtime configurations. So the next thing to do is just put these recommended environment variables. And don't quote me on this, but I think these are just related to graphics card settings and maybe to optimize it for running the LLM or something of that sort, though I'm not 100% sure on that. So the next thing to do is a quick example. Now I've run through all these instructions before and I noticed a few things that were a bit confusing. So now what I'm going to do is go back in here and for the prerequisites, I'm just going to go in the pip installer. I need to make sure I'm on Linux, which I am. Good. And this, I ran these after, and that's when I got it working before. I had actually installed the drivers originally from a different page. It was basically like the docs.intel.com for the client GPU drivers, which had some slight differences, and it was a little odd, some of the stuff that happened, but I always like to run through this stuff first just because if I notice issues or stuff like that, I can first troubleshoot them, and then that allows me to more coherently explain my thought process when I am recording the stuff. Though I will say this may be like totally out of order that I'm doing this, so if you know more and know better, just go about this the way that you know is best. However, I'm just running this through as someone who has not used Intel graphics cards really to do anything ever before. Alright, so I've done that before, so I just need to go back into the prerequisite here and I'm going to append the path into this environment variable by just doing this. Okay, so I'm just going to quit and then go back. Alright, so I can go back into the installation instructions here. And now we find ourselves in the section that is the quick example. So we've done this. Now we're back into our Conda environment. And we've done the runtime configuration sections, which is right here. Now we're going to create a file named demo.py. However, I want to note something, a little discrepancy that I picked up on earlier. It says we'll be using the Phi 1.5 model. However, when you look in here in the demo Pi code snippet, it's using Falcon 7B, which for me, I'm using the A750 graphics card, which is, I mean, it's only got 8 gigs of RAM. So I don't want to do that. I want to just try doing it with the Phi 1.5 because it's quicker to install, and also because this is just a quick test and not the way I'm going to be using this, because we're going to end up going and installing the Text Gen WebUI. So I'm going to change this real quick to be the Microsoft Phi dash, I think it's an underscore 5. So I change it in that line, and then I also change it here. All right, and now I have the code that I need. So I'm going to create the demo.py script. And I'm going to copy this. All right, and then we do Control O to write out, enter, save it as demo.py, and then exit. Now that we've done that, we're going to run the demonstration script by just typing python demo.py, and assuming everything has been set up well, it might give a few warnings, but it will go ahead and start to install the Phi. Okay, so this error, I'm not 100% sure why this is happening, but I noticed before that the way I was able to fix this was just by upgrading the transformers package. So I'm going to try that again. And now that that's done, I'm just going to run the demo script one more time. And this worked for me before. So I'm hoping, okay, so now it's downloading the Phi 1.5 model. Okay, so I got one more issue here, which just says pip install TRL. So I'm just simply following everything as what it's telling me to do, basically. And once that's done, one more time, we're going to test the demo script. All right, try this one more time, and hopefully we get an answer to what is AI. And assuming we do, then Phi 1.5 is running on our Intel Arc GPU. All right, and we have here question, what is AI? Answer, AI stands for artificial intelligence, which is the simulation of the human intelligence in machines. So essentially, we've done this now. We followed the installation of this IPEX-LLM for the Intel GPU, and the next step, which is what I'm specifically interested in, and I assume that most of you watching this will also be interested in, is going to be running the text generation WebUI on an Intel GPU. Now, I have not gone through this beforehand, so I'm just going to be recording this as I do it live. So the first step we've completed, which is to install IPEX-LLM, and the second step now is what we need to do. So with the LLM integration, we need to download it from a specific link. All right, and then we want to unzip the content into a specific directory. So I'm going to open it with the archive manager. I'm going to extract this, and I'm just going to put it in my home folder because this is not a burner machine, but like kind of a burner machine. So all right, and quickly what I'm going to do real quick is just rename this to Text Gen WebUI because I don't want to have to type all the extra stuff after it. All right, good. Now that that is completed, we need to install the dependencies. Now we are in our conda environment, but just for the sake of everything being clean, I'm just going to start a new shell and go back into it. Now that we're there, we're going to change the directory of the WebUI. So where am I right now? It should be home syllabus. Okay, so good. And so we're going to install the requirements. However, I am just a little confused as of this second because this does say GPU and it's telling me to install the requirements CPU only. I just want to take a quick peek in here and see if there is a requirements GPU. Okay, I'm just going to follow the instructions here and assume that everything is correct. Now, if you're not going to be using the OpenAI API, you don't need to do this. So in some of my other videos, I have my robots talk to me using the local LLMs that are running from the Text Gen WebUI. So that's kind of what the OpenAI API extension is for. So if you're not going to be doing anything where you need the Text Gen WebUI to run as a sort of server, you can omit that as it says there in the note. So this is just installing everything from the requirements files. I'm just going to scroll down and see what comes next. Okay, configure oneAPI variables. I do believe, did we not do that before in this section? Okay, we did. Okay, now that that is working and we are in the correct directory, we're going to just go ahead and run the command here as it tells us to, which is python server.py, and it's saying load in 4-bit, and I think it says in the Text Gen WebUI to do that to save memory. I don't quite remember. Alright, so we are running and it's on a public URL. Alright, we'll deal with that. Okay, so we're in the Text Gen WebUI now, which is a sort of familiar space for a lot of us. And it's cool because you'll see here that IPEX-LLM is pre-selected as the model loader, so that's cool. Now if we go back into the instructions, you want to download, and we can just try it with Phi 1.5, I suppose, again, as they say here. So in order to do that, we can just copy this and place it in the model download here. And it's downloading it here. Alright, done. Good. So it does give you a little bit of feedback here in the Text Gen WebUI when you're downloading a model. So I believe the next step is to just hit the reload. I'm going to hit the blue refresh button to update the model. Drop down menu, and it should now show up right here. And just to follow the instructions strictly, we're going to go back and click load. Now I do think that finished. Yes. Cool. So now let's just go ahead and start chatting with it. And I'm interested to see the speed. That's not bad at all. That is really not bad at all. It is a small model and we have this little issue, so definitely the prompt needs a little bit of adjustment and things like that, but I mean, okay, I didn't actually read the output. Everything's great. You're doing well. Okay, so it said I'm doing well, that's fine. That is true. Could you tell me about Linux? All right, I don't know if I'm not sure what the specific date is. I'm just going to assume that's correct. So that's not bad at all. So it's getting 9 tokens a second on this card, And I don't know, like, I don't really have any way right now that I've seen to monitor temps and stuff like that. There absolutely must be. However, that's not something I've looked into. Just to add a quick addendum, I did a little bit of research, and so far, excuse my squeaky chair, doesn't seem like there's a way to monitor temps or VRAM usage in Linux on the Intel Arc cards. I do have this little thermometer here in front of the Musketeer, but it's not obviously going to be very accurate for the specific GPU temp, though it is mounted near the GPU, so I suppose it gives me something. But this is, to be honest with you, actually getting like the Text Gen WebUI and everything like that following, once this documentation was followed, everything after that was pretty simple and not bad at all. I'm rather impressed with how everything went following this. That concludes the small tutorial video for today. I understand that a lot of people probably want to use a model other than 5.1.5, so I believe that my next video may be trying to get Llama 3 or something of that sort running on this Arc A750. However, today I just wanted to get the Text Gen WebUI up and running with this Intel card, which I was able to do, which gives me a lot of excitement, especially because this is a lower end card. They have the, I believe, A770, which is 16 gigabytes, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see the progression of Intel GPUs in the AI ML space. If you have any specific requests that you'd like to see this card run in terms of models with respect to like what it actually could reasonably run, definitely let me know, and I'd be more than happy to try running them in the next video. So I just wanted to see if this thing got like a little faster if I played with it more, and I mean I got up like to 11 tokens in one thing, but its movie knowledge is rather questionable, as it says Doc Brown was portrayed by Matt Damon in the film Toy Story. And then when asking about Marty McFly, it did get the 1955 year right, but it said that it was to witness the events before World War II ends. Yeah, so questionable output, but that wasn't quite the point of this video. I just wanted to throw that in there for humorous effect.